In this video, we're going to look at neurons. We're going to cover what neurons are, the different types of neurons, the anatomy of the neuron, including the myelin sheath, and how the nervous impulse is transmitted along the neuron. Firstly, what is a neuron? Well, we mentioned in a previous video that the nervous system is made up of a network of nerves. Well, if we look even smaller than those nerves, we find that those nerves are made up of bundles of a particular type of cell called a neuron. Now, these cells are very, very small, and it's a large number of them that makes up the nerve. We have three main types of neurons. Sensory neurons are neurons that have attached to them at one end a receptor, while motor neurons have attached to them at one end a muscle. Then we have the third type, interneurons, which are basically connecting neurons that connect two other types of neurons together. Common to all of the different types of neurons is the anatomy. Each one contains a cell body, which is the main part of the cell that has a fair few of the organelles in it, including the nucleus. It then has a number of dendrites, which are connected to the axons of other nerves. And it has the axon, which is the fiber that the nervous signal is propagated or sent down, and it attaches to the dendrite of another neuron. Now, one neuron might have its dendrites attached to a number of other neurons on the axon. However, the axon of one neuron only attaches to one other neuron. And when I say attach, the neurons don't actually touch each other. There's a very, very small gap between the neurons called the synapse, and chemical messages are sent across this synapse. So it stops being an electrochemical impulse at the point of the synapse, and a chemical messenger called a neurotransmitter is sent across. Now, some neurons in the body have on their axon a fatty layer of tissue, which is called the myelin sheath. Now, this myelin sheath increases the speed of propagation, or increases the speed that a signal is sent down that particular axon. So places that you might find a myelin sheath include the spinal cord, where we want the messages to get from the brain at the top of the body, perhaps down to the feet, very, very quickly. The non-infectious disease multiple sclerosis causes a degradation of this myelin sheath. So what it does is causes holes in that sheath called scleroses, and these scleroses interfere with the propagation of the signal down that axon, and it causes that signal to either be lost or distorted. Signals are transmitted along the surface of a neuron using an electrochemical process. What this does is involves the movement of sodium and potassium ions in and out of the cell to cause a change in the electrical potential between the inside of the cell and the outside of the cell. And this is a chain reaction that propagates the signal from the dendrite along the cell body and down the axon to the next neuron. Okay, in this video, we've looked at neurons being the cells that make up nerves. We've looked at the three different types of neurons: sensory neurons, motor neurons, and interneurons. We've looked at the anatomy of the neuron, consisting of the cell body, dendrites, which receive messages, axons, which send messages, as well as the myelin sheath, which is found on the axon of some neurons. And we've also talked about the nervous impulse being an electrochemical process that causes a change in potential down the length of the neuron.